y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So by the title of today's video, you can tell that this is going to be about the books that I DNF'd this year. I'm usually not the biggest DNF'er just because I feel like I'm a good judge of character in terms of which books I pick out for myself. I feel like I know what I'm going to like and I know what I'm not going to like. So I don't really have that many DNFs throughout the year, but when I do, just know that it's serious. Before I get into the actual DNFing part though, please keep in mind that just because you love the book doesn't mean that it worked for me. Don't get upset if the book that you really enjoyed is in here. It's no hard feelings. We're all different, so just keep that in mind. There are probably a few books that you rated a 1-star or DNF that I really enjoyed and gave a 5-star to, so yeah, just keep that in mind. One of the first books that I DNF'd this year was The Eliza Bind by Emily Giffin, and I actually picked this up at Target, I want to say over the summer, and I really liked the cover. I love the whole New York landscape. I also love the pink, so I thought this was going to be right up my alley, you know, in terms of just the cover vibe. So I picked up the book and I read the synopsis, and honestly it sounded really intriguing, so I thought it was going to give what it was supposed to give, and unfortunately it did not. So this book is about a young woman named Cecily, I'm pretty sure her name is, and she's a journalist, and one night she goes to this bar to kind of like lick her wounds because her and her boyfriend broke up. And so she goes to this bar, she's getting drunk, and she decides that she's gonna give her boyfriend a call, or her ex-boyfriend a call, because you know she misses him and all that stuff. And this guy that's like sitting next to her is like, don't do it. And so she looks at him and she's like, what do you mean don't do it? And he's like, don't call him, whoever he is. Still don't know how he realized that she was going to call her boyfriend, but whatever. So she, you know, decides not to, and then her and this guy start talking and getting to know one another, and then like they hook up, and then you pretty much follow them on this whirlwind romance. But unfortunately, while all of this is taking place, 9/11 actually happens, and Cecily cannot find like this man that she's been, you know, talking with and like dating essentially. She thinks that he might have perished in the actual attacks. Once that realization hits on her that she can't find him, she goes to this place that has all of these missing people, like missing persons posters, and she actually sees his face on there and recognizes that the name he gave her is not the name that is on the poster, and there's a number on the poster. So when she calls this number, she realizes that this man isn't who he claims to be. So the story pretty much takes off from there. I don't want to say anything else because it will be a spoiler, but honestly y'all, this book was a hot mess. Like I thought I was really going to like it and I just didn't. Unfortunately, I just felt like the way that 9/11 was used in this story wasn't really tasteful. I felt like it was more so used as like a backdrop versus like an actual integral part to the story, which is not right because this was of course a tragic event. And so I just didn't like that, and I just feel like if you're going to have like a certain situation where these two characters are in the midst of all this chaos, maybe just use like a regular, I don't know, like plane crash or something like that, or just something different. But to use 9/11 as a backdrop, I just thought was, like I said, pretty tasteless. And there was also a twist in here that I did not like at all. Like I found out this twist because I decided to skip ahead because I was like, does this book get any better? So I was skipping ahead and I noticed this twist and I was like, that's it, I'm done. And it was one of those plot points that I just can't stand in books. I just did not like it. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just pack this up and give it to my local Goodwill so that way somebody else can find it and maybe love it more than I did. So yeah, and I read reviews on this book on Goodreads after I already donated it and saw that a lot of people did not care for it and they felt the same way that I did. So take that, you know, for what you will. So the next book that I have here, I feel like is going to really make people upset and it's going to cause some of y'all girls to tussle in the comments, but I did DNF Normal People by Sally Rooney. Y'all, this book was not for me. It fell all the way flat. All the way flat. I think I got about 30% into this and I had to stop. I had to put a stop to the madness. So this right here is about two kids, well, teenagers I guess, one named Connell and one named Marion, and they both grew up in this small town, but there's similarities end there. So they both attend this like really like nice school, and Connell is very popular, he's very well liked, and Marianne is definitely an outcast, and everyone really just like goes out of their way to ignore her, or the ones that don't ignore her are just very rude and mean to her. But somehow her and Connell like strike up a conversation and they keep finding themselves like thrown together essentially, and then they start to hang out in secret, and then the story pretty much like takes off from there. So it like follows their life through high school and then college, and I'm assuming beyond that. And so starting with Connell, I did not like him. I'm sorry, I did not like that young man, and I just don't know how I was supposed to root for him after he went through his little redemption arc. I just wasn't feeling it. In the very beginning, he treats Marianne so nasty and so rude, and I just never liked in books when characters would like date someone in secret or hide this person from like the world because they were ashamed of who they were, or they felt like they didn't like match up to their expectations or everyone else's expectations. Like Connell is this rich, well-liked guy, Marianne is like the outcast, the loner. So like he could tell, like obviously you can tell that he was not really like trying to be with Marianne in public, essentially, because again, she wasn't living up to everyone else's expectations and standards. So I just did not like, I'd never liked that in books, and I understand that it is a huge thing in a lot of romance books, but like I don't really like it. And if it is going to be in a romance book, I just need it to be executed well, and I just felt like this wasn't. Again, Connell was very annoying and obnoxious, and there were a few times in here where him and Marianne were like, you know, getting up to stuff, and I just did not like the way he was treating her. So I will just leave it on that note. And then going to Marianne, she was fine, like, you know, she was okay. I definitely empathized with her and felt for her because she was really alone, and I just, again, I felt for her. And her brother, oh my god, her brother was so nasty and so mean. Like, oh, another male character in here that needed to get because I did not like him. He was so nasty to her and very abusive towards her as a sibling. I never saw something like that in a book, but he was very abusive towards her. So I just did not care for like most of the characters, honestly. But going back to Marianne, yeah, she was all right, but unfortunately she wasn't enough for me to continue with the story, so I had to DNF it. I actually didn't mind the writing style, and I know a lot of people don't like how Sally Rooney's stories are usually formatted because she doesn't use quotation marks, at least not in this book she didn't, and I thought I was going to be annoyed by that, but honestly I got through it with no issue. I didn't have a hard time differentiating the characters or anything, so I did not mind that. It was just the characters themselves that I couldn't stand, and maybe they are supposed to be unlikable, like, you know, maybe that's the whole point, and that's great, but like I'm not reading a book where I can't stand like 90% of the people in here because I'm not going to care about the story. I'm not going to care about where these people end up or what happens for them or to them. So yeah. Also, I wanted to say too that this book was giving like Perks of Being a Wallflower, like that 2012 era of Tumblr, like that late 2010s era of Tumblr. And I was on Tumblr during that time and I loved it, but like I just wasn't expecting to relive that in this book, and I just wasn't in the mood for it. I wasn't. So it also was giving me like John Green vibes, even though there is no comparison between the two authors, but like for some reason it just gave me those vibes. Like if y'all know what I mean, please let me know that I'm not going crazy. Like let me know in the comments, but I just felt like this was giving Looking for Alaska, you know, Paper Towns. It was giving that whole era of like teen movies and books, and I was a fan of it back then to an extent, but now looking back, like as an adult, I would never pick up one of those books again. So maybe The Fault in Our Stars, but like other than that, I would not pick up any of those books. I just felt like this is what that book gave me, and I wasn't in the mood for it. Yeah, I am definitely donating this one. This is going to my local Goodwill, like I mentioned with the other book, or another little thrift store that's around my area, because someone else will probably enjoy this a lot more than I did. So the last DNF that I had is The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Igharo, and this is actually a book of the month pick, and I'm really disappointed that I DNF'd this one just because I was really looking forward to this. This was the most anticipated read for me. I love the cover art, like it is stunning. I thought that this book was going to be everything I needed because this is about a young woman who is named Hannah, and she never knew her father. So she actually lives in America, I think specifically California, with her mother who is white and her father is Nigerian. So unfortunately, her father ends up dying, and he ends up dying before Hannah really gets the chance to know him and form a relationship with him. But in his will, he asks that she comes to Nigeria and attend his funeral and meet the rest of her siblings and, you know, family. And so she ends up going to Nigeria, and she starts to connect with this side of her family as well as her roots, and, you know, just discovering herself and finding love along the way. So it really is like a family dynamic type of book. Again, it's about identity and culture and what that means to you, and it also just, again, explores love, and it explores grief and the death and the loss of a parent. So I just really thought that this was going to be an amazing book and just such a like complex and nuanced and convoluted book. But honestly, the writing style in here, what is going on? I did not like it. I thought that the writing style was just a bit like kitschy, I don't know, for me. And I also found myself not caring for the characters as much. I kind of cared for Hannah, but like not really. I really liked the love interest. I forget his name, I'm so sorry. But her love interest, he was actually one of the only ones that I found interesting, and I wanted to know more about him versus anybody else. Hannah's siblings, like insufferable. And I again know that was the point, because when Hannah goes to Nigeria and like meet her family, they're obviously not happy that she's there. They're not very welcoming because they realize that their father cheated on their mother and had Hannah at a wedlock. So they're really not happy that she's here, but you know, they're kind of doing their own thing. Some of them are warming up to her, others are just like not here for it. So she's going through the motions of that and trying to navigate, you know, how am I going to get these people on my side? How am I going to actually form connections and relationships with my siblings? Like, how am I going to do that? And so yeah, I thought I was gonna like it, like I said, but I just didn't. And I felt like one of the characters in here, what is his name? I honestly forget, but there is a character in here, so one of Hannah's brothers, who is Nigerian, of course, and he actually moves to the United States to become a rapper, I think. And the way that he's written, it's giving caricature, and I just didn't like it. I did not like it. I'm not trying to say too much. I'm not trying to speak too much on this book, but I just felt like there were a lot of things in here that I just did not agree with personally. And the last thing that I will say is there is a relationship in here between a young woman and this older man, and I am not against age gap relationships at all. Like, I will read a book that has age gaps in it because I find that they are more interesting. But this was a bit weird because one of Hannah's sisters is involved with this man who was her dad's best friend. So, you know, like that I just thought was a little strange, because it's like, so you saw this girl grow up, you knew this girl when she was a baby, when she was a kid, you watched her grow up, and now you're hooking up with her. It was just, oh, like, yeah. So this book just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I think I had a DNF at about 30% because it wasn't giving. So I am going to be giving this one away too. This will be going to Goodwill, and I definitely want to read more by Jane though, even though I didn't care for the writing style in here. I've heard so many people praise, I think it's called The Ties That Tether, that's her other book. So many people talk about the book and loved it and said it was so good. So I definitely want to give that one a try and see, maybe that one is more up my alley. But yeah, this one just did not do what I thought it was going to do. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I DNF'd this year. Please do not take offense to any of the books that maybe are your favorites that were mentioned in this video. It's all love, it's all love. They were just books that were not for me, and that is okay. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure you subscribe and follow my Bookstagram. I will leave all of the links and all of the information down below, as well as at the end of this video, in case you want to keep up with me in real time. I do update my story graph and my Bookstagram a lot more than I do YouTube, so please consider following me, as well as just subscribing to my channel. So yeah, anyways, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.